Hey everybody, my name is Dr. Jocelyn Conley, pelvic floor physical therapist, and in this video I'm going to go over the Sumo deadlift. In previous videos I went over deadlifting basics, I went over how to get started, introduced you to some variations, and I went over conventional deadlift, Romanian deadlift. So if you haven't watched those first, I recommend checking those out first before diving into this variation. What you'll need is potentially a barbell or some equipment. It could be a med ball, a kettlebell, dumbbells, anything. It doesn't have to be a barbell, so that you could follow along with me. I recommend also watching this through, then starting from the beginning and pausing and hitting each of the performance points, pausing as you need. The Sumo deadlift is a hip hinge like all the other variations of the deadlift, except your legs are wide. In the Sumo deadlift, we target the groin muscles, the inner thigh muscles, and the inside portion of the hamstrings. We have outer hamstrings or the lateral hamstrings, and we have the medial hamstrings. So here we're targeting a little bit more of the medial hamstrings, the adductors, particularly one that is really big. It's kind of like a hamstring basically, and then the side glutes. The reason that is just based on the fibers and how we are pulling from the ground up. So I'm going to start from a side view so that you can see the trajectory of the movement of my body, and I'll show you where my positioning will be with my legs. So my legs are going to be pretty wide, much wider than my shoulder width, but not too wide in that my knees are caving in as I do this. So my knees stay over the middle of my foot. So my feet are pretty wide. As with other deadlifts with a bar or any other equipment, you step up to your equipment where your shins are against the bar or whatever you're using. From here, my hands can be about shoulder width apart or just inside. I like to orient my hands so if my thumbs are touching, about an inch in between. So that's just inside shoulder width apart. Or if I put my hands in the front of my thighs, that's pretty good. Whatever width, your bar should not be wobbling side to side if you are using a bar. So, step up, I place my hands, eyes 6 feet ahead, my knuckles are over the bar, shoulder blades back, spine in neutral, I slide the bar up, pull through, same way back, hips sit back, chest comes forward as I come back down. Bar moves straight up, hips come to the bar, hips move away, but bar slides down my legs. One more time. I exhale, squeeze glutes. I sit my hips back. Inhale, let go of my glutes, but I keep connection with my shoulder blades the whole time. So from a front view, feet are wide. Hands placed, head, eyes up, head not here, but head not all the way up here either. Kind of like in between, shoulder blades back, feet grounded. I scoop my hips through, glutes squeeze, hips sit back, bar down. Now I can think about splitting the floor as I pull my hips through, like as if I was bringing my feet out, but they're not actually sliding. And that would be as I go, let me restate that. So as I come up, I can think about splitting the floor as if my legs are going out, and I can do that same thing as I go down. That's going to target a little bit more of the outer glutes. So you're going to hit the outer glutes a little bit more. Now as I pull up, yes, yeah. It's both on the way up and on the way down. You don't have to do that. You can focus on just squeezing your glutes. And once you get that down, you can add that little isometric movement into the sumo deadlift as well. The other thing you can do with this movement is, and with any other deadlift, which I'll talk about in depth in future in another video, is like trying to break the floor with your feet. So as you are lifting, you're like really driving your feet into the ground. That can just add a little bit more muscle recruitment of your hamstrings and of your glutes. So we covered technique, spine in neutral, hips wide, knees over toes. Feel this a little bit differently, inner thighs, outer thighs. And you'll notice that it feels a little bit different than the other deadlifts. Couple things, the sumo deadlift, once you get it, it can be a little technically challenging, coordinate your hip movement with everything else. But just know that because your feet are wider and your arms are at the same distance, your pulling distance is less than a conventional deadlift. So you don't have as far to go with the sumo compared to the other, like a conventional trap bar deadlift. Why that matters is typically when your skill level reaches a certain point, you will be pulling more weight with a sumo deadlift than typically with a conventional deadlift. In the next video, I'm going to go over a variation of the trap bar deadlift.